The history of Ukraine is a convoluted saga of pride, pain, and survival against overwhelming odds. Nestled in the heart of Eastern Europe, this vibrant nation has often been a battleground for larger geopolitical ambitions, its fate intertwined with the vicissitudes of its powerful neighbors. Ukraine's past is marked not just by periods of sovereignty, but also by tumultuous times of domination and resistance, each era sowing seeds of the current discord. Throughout centuries, Ukraine has been a mosaic of cultures, each adding its unique hue to the national identity. However, it is the 20th century that has cast the longest shadow over its national psyche, particularly the Soviet era, which reshaped the country's political landscape drastically. This period, marked by repression and artificial famines, has left a deep imprint on the Ukrainian collective memory, fueling sentiments that linger in today's geopolitical alignments. The story of Ukraine is not a simple tale of victimhood, it is also one of resilience and robust cultural revival. Despite the scars of the past, the spirit of Ukraine has not been quenched. It has been tempered like steel in the forge of history. As we explore further, the layers of complexity in Ukraine's history will reveal not just the roots of current conflicts, but also the enduring strength of its people. The Soviet imprint on Ukraine is profound and indelible. Under Soviet rule, Ukraine experienced a series of draconian policies that aimed at integrating it more closely with Soviet ideology and economic practices. The collectivization of agriculture in the 1930s, for instance, led to the catastrophic Holodomor, a man-made famine in which millions of Ukrainians perished. This tragic event is a pivotal chapter in Ukraine's history, symbolizing the harshness of Soviet policies. Stalin's era was particularly oppressive, marked by purges and the suppression of Ukrainian cultural identity. The Russian language was promoted at the expense of Ukrainian, and local history was rewritten to fit Soviet narratives. Such measures were not mere cultural adjustments, but part of a deliberate strategy to eradicate a sense of national identity and quell any seeds of dissent. This suppression has had long-lasting effects on ethnic and national tensions in Ukraine. Post-World War II, Ukraine became a crucial frontier in the Cold War landscape, hosting a significant number of Soviet military installations. This strategic importance brought certain economic advantages, but also made Ukraine a focal point of Soviet military and security concerns. The legacy of being at the heart of Soviet strategic planning continues to influence how Ukraine is viewed by Russia and the West. The unraveling of the Soviet Union brought about a wave of independence movements across Eastern Europe, and Ukraine was no exception. The Declaration of Independence in 1991 was a monumental moment, celebrated across the nation. However, the shadows of the Soviet past didn't dissipate with the fall of the Union. They morphed into new challenges for the young nation. Ukraine's ethnic composition is as varied as its history. While the majority of Ukrainians share a common Slavic ancestry, significant minorities like Russians, Romanians, and Hungarians add to the national tapestry. This diversity has been both a source of rich cultural exchange and a cause of friction, particularly in regions like Crimea and the Eastern Territories, where ethnic Russians predominate. Historically, these ethnic tensions were often exacerbated by external influences. During the Soviet era, Russian was promoted as the lingua franca, undermining the status of the Ukrainian language and creating a hierarchy of ethnicities. This policy sowed seeds of division that have grown into significant political and social rifts in contemporary Ukraine, particularly evident during the 2014 Crimea crisis. The Orange Revolution of 2004 and the subsequent Euromaidan protests of 2013 to 2014 were not just political upheavals, but also expressions of a deeper struggle for identity. These events highlighted the divide between those who envision a Ukraine integrated with Western Europe and those who feel a strong cultural and political alignment with Russia. This schism is deeply entwined with ethnic identities and historical affiliations. The ongoing conflict in eastern Ukraine, which began in 2014, illustrates how historical ethnic divisions can be leveraged by external forces to incite and sustain conflict. Russia's tacit support of separatist movements in eastern Ukraine is viewed by many as an attempt to exploit these ethnic divisions, aiming to keep Ukraine within its sphere of influence by destabilizing it from within. Ukraine's strategic location between Europe and Russia has made it a pivotal area in geopolitical chess games throughout history. From the days of the Kievan Rus through the partitions of Poland and into the Cold War, Ukraine has been perceived as a gateway or a buffer state by its larger neighbors. This strategic importance has often meant that Ukraine's own aspirations were overshadowed by the ambitions of others. During the Soviet era, Ukraine was integral to the USSR's defense strategy against the West. Its geographical position made it a front line of sorts, housing missile silos and heavy military apparatus. Even today, this legacy influences how Russia perceives its security needs, with Ukraine considered a critical buffer against NATO expansion. The post-Soviet space has been characterized by Russia attempting to maintain influence over its former territories, with Ukraine being a primary target. The annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the support of separatist movements in eastern Ukraine are recent examples of how historical strategic imperatives continue to shape the actions of states in this region. Western responses have also shaped Ukraine's path. NATO's eastward expansion and the EU's partnership offers to Ukraine have been perceived by Russia as direct threats to its sphere of influence. These geopolitical maneuvers have not only deepened existing national divides within Ukraine, but also escalated tensions to levels reminiscent of the Cold War. The echoes of historical conflicts resonate loudly in today's Ukraine. The enduring influence of the Soviet era, the persistent ethnic divisions, and the continuous strategic tug-of-war have all contributed to the current unrest in the region. The conflict in eastern Ukraine, while having its immediate triggers, is deeply rooted in the historical complexities of the nation. Today, Ukraine finds itself at a crossroads, grappling with its past while trying to forge a path forward. The challenges it faces are not merely remnants of history, but active elements that influence everyday life and national policy. Understanding these elements is crucial for any meaningful resolution to the ongoing conflict. The Maidan Revolution of 2014 was not just a demand for political change, but also a call for historical reconciliation and national unity. It represented a significant moment where Ukrainians across various divides stood together to shape a new future, one that acknowledges the past but is not bound by it. As Ukraine strives to integrate more with the West, it continues to confront the shadows of its Soviet past and the realpolitik of modern geopolitics. The balancing act between appeasing its large neighbor and pursuing its European aspirations remains a delicate and ongoing challenge. As we reflect on Ukraine's tumultuous history and its impact on current events, it becomes apparent that the past is not just a series of events, but a continual influence that shapes the present and the future. The complexity of Ukraine's historical narrative demands a nuanced understanding and a thoughtful approach to its current geopolitical predicament. This historical perspective provides a lens through which we can view the ongoing conflict not as an isolated incident, but as part of a broader struggle for identity, sovereignty, and stability. It prompts us to consider the broader implications of the conflict, not just for Ukraine, but for international stability and order. In light of this, it is crucial for the international community to engage with Ukraine not merely as a strategic interest or a point of contention, but as a nation with its own aspirations and challenges. Supporting Ukraine's sovereignty and its democratic aspirations is not just beneficial for Ukraine, but for the stability of the international system. As readers and global citizens, our role extends beyond passive observation. We are called to engage, to educate ourselves about this complex history, and to support initiatives that promote peace and reconciliation. Reflecting on Ukraine's past and present challenges us to consider our responsibilities in shaping a more stable and inclusive world.